everyone, welcome back to another 2v2 battle. We is Gobbos is back. We have a vanguard force out here of 3 Night Goblin Fanatics, 3 Goblin Wolf Riders, 2 Forest Goblin Spider Riders, and a Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archer. My other force is up here in this forest. Our ally have a dwarf over there. Over here we have a Goblin Rock Lobber, a Doomdiver Catapult. We have 4 Goblin Spears backed up by a Goblin Big Boss and a Night Goblin Leader Shaman thing. Our leader, whatever. We have 2 Arachnarok Spiders as well up here. My ally has a few Thunderers, a lot of Longbeards. We have a cannon. I think they had 2 cannons. Maybe just 1. A couple of the Dwarf Slayers led by Ungram Iron Fist. The enemy, we have the Empire player over here with a front line of Swordsmen, a back line of Handgunners. I think they have 4 of them. Carfrons on a Pegasus. We also have a Celestial Wizard, yep, on a horse. And their army is flanked by a Reiksguard and then 2 great swords on either end. Back here on this hill, we have 3 great cannons. Vampire count player brought, how was that, 7 skeletons? I think 7 skeletons. They also brought a Banshee, a Manfred von Karstein, and a Necromancer, all on horses. And then Cryptors and Cairn Wraiths and a Death Ball. Now, let me tell you something real quick. About a week ago or so, I was linked to Heir of Carthage's page because he showed a video off about this tactic. The person who linked it to me said, maybe you can use this as a theme. Not going to happen. This tactic, and I sighed openly when I saw the video that that was linked to me. It was showing off the Death Ball that the vampire accounts can do, where they stick a Necromancer and anybody who can cast Invocation of the Heck and who has the trait Master of the Dead. They stick him in the center of this Death Ball. The Cairn Wraiths can take a lot of damage from the Cryptors. This is a Death Ball that is really hard to kill, and I knew as soon as Heir showed that video, I knew I was going to have to deal with it online. And let me tell you, I have played against this a lot. Luckily, there are still some Vampire Count players who don't do the Death Ball, but a lot of them do this Death Ball, and we'll see how effective that is here in later in the game. So those are the army compositions. Goblin Rock Lobbers and Doom Divers going off, and this Empire player is going to immediately start marching this way. They don't know about my flanking force yet. The Night Goblins have Stalk, which means they're hidden anywhere, so they can't see them. They obviously don't know about my hidden units in the forest, so this is unfortunate for me because they are marching this way, the opposite direction of where my goblins are hiding. Now the idea, I knew they were going to probably take artillery, but honestly I didn't know they would put them up here on this hill. I thought they would deploy here, which they did, but I thought they would deploy their Grey Cannons here too and then march up. So I was expecting to hit them in the back with these Night Goblin Fanatics and the Cav Force to wipe out their back line. This creates a problem because now they're just creating more distance between my ambush force and the force I'm supposed to be ambushing. These skeletons are marching up immediately. And right now I'm going to be trying to move my army closer to the Dwarven allies, seeing that the Empire player is moving that way. I'm going to be moving my Doomdiver Catapult and my Goblin Rock Lobber. I'm going to be moving them about to here, and then I just kind of forget about them and let them do what they do because I was too busy micromanaging later in this battle. Here comes the Vampire Count Death Ball. It is, it's pretty silly. It's pretty silly. Not sure why they would spend so much money on Skeleton Warriors and then separate them from the Death Ball and just have them rush up like this. Honestly, if you're going to go Death Ball, just nix most of these Skeleton Warriors and get more Cryptors and Cairn Wraiths. Like, just go for it. I don't think the Skeleton Warriors really do much in this type of build here, especially when you separate them like this. But here we go. My army is still getting into position. Dwarves are getting ready for a charge. Thunderer fire going down. We should get some blasting charges here soon too. Beautiful. Now, what my force is doing, some of them were seen, but I've kept a lot of them hidden up to this point. My Fanatics have a long way to run. But right now, my goal is to take out these Great Cannons with my Cav. So I'm trying to get there as fast as possible. Meanwhile, the Skeletons and the Dwarven Miners are now fighting. Backed up by their Thunderers. I'm going to be trying to flank them here soon-ish. Then here comes the Death Ball into the rest of the Dwarven lines. And here we go. We got a Forest Goblin Spider Rider getting into the backs of these great cannons. The Forest, actually all spiders, including the Arachnaroks, have the Strider trait, so they receive no combat or movement penalties in the forests, just to let you know. Even those giant ones that are back in there. So yeah, we get a nice flank on these great cannons. We're sending in more of our Goblin Wolf Riders as well. The Empire player hasn't really reacted to this right now. Over here, I think I missed it. Yeah, I did. These Reiksguard were charging into my Goblin lines, and I managed to cast a spell. Let's pause it. Gork will fix it. This comes from our Goblin Shaman, our leader. Minus speed and charge bonus, which is pretty effective on a cav that relies on both of those things. So I managed to cast that on them, and so they halted their charge and started to run away from our Goblin Warriors. Then, let's see. Ooh, that's actually a cool spell. That must be from the Celestial Wizard of the Empire, who is actually currently stationed right there. These Reiksguard still do get a charge in the side of the Dwarves. I sent my Ragnarok in the middle of all these Skeleton Warriors because it's going to have a field day with those. Meanwhile, the other Dwarf Warriors are trying to hold off this Death Ball as long as possible. Do what damage they can. And in the back line here, we have wiped out most of their Great Cannons at this point, and they're going to be turning their handgunners to face the Forest and my Cav, who have been doing a great job. And my Fanatics still running across the field. The enemy doesn't know about them yet, because again they have stalk. And my big Arachnarok spiders are just going to destroy these skeletons with the help of the dwarves. Up here, you can see the Death Ball. It's been fighting for a while, but hasn't really taken much damage. Yeah. So let's go over this in case you haven't seen the video, why this works. The Cryptors have regeneration. The Necromancers have the trait Master of the Undead, which also has regeneration. The Cairn race have 75% physical resistance and will take a lot of hits from the Cryptors. So what hits the Cryptors do take are going to be regenerated by the Necromancer that's sitting in the middle of the pack, which is right there, and their passive regeneration. On top of that, the Necromancer can cast Invocation of the Heck, which will give them even more regeneration. So the only way to really counter this effectively is probably going to be with magic to try and snipe these Cryptors. Like, even if you send a group of Grail Knights in here or things with magical attacks, they may end up fighting against a Crypt Horror instead of the Cairn race, and they could get torn down. Like, this is a very nasty, dare I say, somewhat cheesy build that the Vampire accounts currently have. But that's why it works. It's just because the Cairn race can tank so much damage for the Cryptors, and regeneration and all of the other regeneration from the Necromancer just keep them alive. Here go the handgunners, just sniping my poor Goblin Wolf Riders, so I'm trying to get my forces out to the flanks, since this entire area is now covered by the handgunners. They do have a Reiksguard nearby as well. Meanwhile, we're engaging with some swordsmen. My Ragnarok should be moving soon. I try to snipe this Celestial Wizard with my Goblin Big Boss. This is his ideal target. He's really good at sniping these wizards. And you can see he's doing massive damage to that wizard instantly, with the charge bonus that he receives from the... oh, I forgot to mention. I put him on a spider. So he gets... you know what? We'll go over it later. Yeah, he gets a pretty good charge bonus for being on a spider. The Reiksguard get a flank on my poor Goblin Spearmen. I'm going to use our Shaman to try and buff them up, I believe, here soon. I moved my Wolf Riders in a way that it's forced their handgunners to react and kind of get a little out of their position. Fanatics are finally reaching the battlefield, and their little fanatical goblins are going off. And we're about to get a total surround on these handgunners with all of my cav. Meanwhile, the Death Ball continues, and we're still killing the rest of the skeletons. Oh, I love the Goblin Wolf Riders. So because their formation broke, because I was swinging people to the sides, there's Carl Franz, it allowed me to actually charge up the middle, which was the quickest path out of the forest. And now we have engaged all of their handgunners in melee combat. We're chasing them down with this fanatical group. Currently, we're fighting the rest of the Empire Cav and the infantry over here, including a unit of greatswords. This is a nasty group of soldiers. But I did actually spend some money buffing up my Night Goblin Fanatics to try and keep them in the fight longer. So their attack, I believe, let's quickly look at it, is now 30, which is not too shabby, including the poison damage that they apply on enemy units, which is going to negate some of their armor-piercing damage, their weapon damage, their speed, and their vigor. Also, I'm getting buffs down, I think, from my shaman.
Moving, all right? Are you
Oh, no. I did a debuff on the great swords, and these swordsmen to prevent them from hitting us too hard.
It's a biggie.
And for the most part, we have cleaned up their handgunners. Their Celestial Wizard came back from rounding, so I assigned my Goblin Big Boss to attack him again. The Goblin Big Boss has the Duelist trait, so that means they don't really do a lot of area damage, and they're really focused on killing heroes, squishy heroes specifically, because they're not like armor piercing at all. Carl Franz in the middle of these Night Goblin fanatics. The handgunners are all running. The ones who came back, we were charging them with the Forest Goblin Riders. Let's check on that Death Ball. I sent my Ragnarok to try and support it, while my other Ragnarok is over here taking out some more Imperial infantry, because this is its ideal target. The Death Ball of Cairn Race and the Cryptor is not the ideal target, but I saw that the dwarves needed help, so I sent my my spider in there to just basically tank it, because they have 150 armor, so they can tank a lot of damage, while the other one was cleaning up this infantry over here. So we can see Death Ball's still relatively okay. And the casters in here are going to be casting Invocation of Nehek. They don't have one right now, but that will keep the Cairn Race in the fight a lot longer. And my poor Ragnarok Spider is just being torn to pieces. A lot of dwarves have died. Ungrim's been in the middle of it trying to kill them. But even Ungrim can't bring down the Death Ball alone. Let's see. Meanwhile, we got the Celestial Wizard at this point. I think they shattered for good. And we've cleaned up most of their handgunners. These greatswords stayed in the fight a long time, but that's to be expected. But against so many goblins, they can't kill them all. Can't kill them all. I sent my Night Goblin Shaman to try and support this fight. I'm going to be casting... I may have already done it, but I cast a Magic Missile. Meanwhile, these Goblin Archers have just been kind of sitting in the middle of the formation, just sniping targets. There we go. So we do nail a Cryptor right in the back, and it falls down, including a couple of the Cairn Race, I think, that were surrounding it as well. And I'm like, man, this is not going to work. I had to pull out my Ragnarok. My other Ragnarok is still over here killing the Empire Infantry. And this Death Ball is just not dying. And you can see the Dwarf numbers are very low. So I went a couple seconds thinking, man, do I cast it? The Goblin Shaman does have an AoE spell, the Giant Head of Death. And I was thinking... at this point, I should cast the Giant Head of Death. Even though it's going to hit some dwarves, it's going to hit a lot of the enemy as well. So I'm going to be doing that here in just a minute. Because you can see the dwarves are just faltering. I get chased out there, so I have to move my shaman back because I don't want him engaged in melee. I do also cast the Stand Your Ground from my shaman to try and buff up the dwarves a little bit longer. And here we go. And look at these Cairn Raids falling. Yep, that actually took the perfect path. The perfect path. And murdered all of those Cairn Raids. And without the Cairn Raids, you would see that this Giant Ball of Death actually breaks pretty quickly. I'm sending in some more goblins. My Ragnarok's going to be coming up here again. We're just fighting Carl Franz over there, so that's not that interesting. So yeah, without those Cairn Race to tank all that damage, these dwarves are finally able to get just through the Cryptors and the heroes that are embedded in the middle of this Death Ball. And they fall like that. Without the Cairn Race, this ball is nothing. So what I should have done, I was honestly too busy micromanaging all my cav and trying to take care of the Empire player. I should have casted that spell in the beginning, but I was just so focused on what I was doing, and I just sent my Ragnarok in there to try and help that I just didn't think about it. Because again, in the heat of battle, you can't pause and think. You just got to keep going. I knew I had to crush the handgunners. I knew I had to crush the Empire player. I was trying to snipe that Celestial Wizard. And my micromanagement was split so much that I just left these siege engines back here. They got some shots off, but I wasn't targeting them specifically on their preferred targets because my mind was just split everywhere. But after we wrapped up the Empire player, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Let's cast this giant green head of death and see how that does. So MVP of this match, I'm just going to declare it here, is our Goblin Great Shaman with 99 kills. Probably all of which was just got there at the very end with all those Karen rays that died. The Giant Ball of Death was very effective up until that point. If I didn't cast that or didn't have enough Winds of Magic left to cast it, I think it's very possible that the Giant Ball of Death would have just lived long enough and killed everybody. Honestly, I think it would have. The Skeletal Warriors did absolutely nothing. I don't know why you would bring these in this kind of build. Especially separated like that, I don't think they add really anything, and they didn't get many kills. Although I guess they did some damage. They ranked up a little bit, unless those ranks were bought before the match started. Banshee did pretty respectable. Manfred in the middle of that Death Ball did really good. The Necromancer's basically just there to cast the Invocation of Nehek and have his Master of the Dead trait as well to keep the ball alive. Let's look at my people. Arachnaroks did really well, but that's mostly against these skeletons. Some of them are against Imperial Infantry, but that's still pretty good. My Goblin Wolf Riders did great. My Fanatics didn't do amazing, but they were running across the field for most of the match. The big boss was trying to snipe the Celestial Wizard for the most part. Again, they are a duelist. The Goblins did pretty good, and most of those were fighting Imperial Infantry, so that's really respectable for them. Forest Goblin, yeah, they all did pretty good. Goblin Rocklobber, 5 kills. Doom Diver, 23 kills. Again, I wasn't focus firing them. I mismanaged them, so they did not get their optimal targets. At one point, I did see that these were firing at Karl Franz flying around. Not probably what you want to do. So a lot of shots were probably wasted when I wasn't paying attention. My ally, King Bunny, let's see, the Longbeards spam did pretty good, actually, but a lot of those are probably against those skeletons. Thunderers did okay, but they weren't really fighting an army composition where they would shine, necessarily. The Slayers didn't really do that good. I saw that the Slayers were thrown against the Death Ball, but a lot of their attacks were probably against the Karen race instead of their preferred targets of the Crypt Horrors. And the cannon only got 18 kills, so that really didn't do much. Miners with blasting charges, killing 99, I'm assuming, skeletons. That's great. That's really good. 17 kills from Ungrim. Those are probably mostly against Karen race, so that's pretty good. Yeah, overall, that's pretty nice. Pretty nice amount of kills there. And then the Empire player. Let's see. Karl Franz, 64 kills. Not a surprise. Great Swords did, well, one of them did okay. The other one didn't do as much. Handgunners did not that great at all. Swordsmen, some of them did alright. Great Cannons didn't really get a chance to fire. Those 3 kills are probably in melee against my Goblins, I would assume. Reichsguard, 123 kills. That's really good. Really solid performance from the Reichsguard. Yeah. That Death Ball, though. Alright, so something that I wanted to point out. The Goblin Big Boss, because I didn't notice this until very recently. I was using the Goblin Big Boss as a mobile force and a mobile encouraging aura for my Goblin Riders and Forest Riders. But he only has the Encourage aura when he is unmounted, which I think is very odd that he doesn't continue to have the Encourage aura when mounted. Also, we have the Giant Wolf and the Giant Spider. The Giant Spider will grant you some poison attacks, but it is lower speed. But you also do get Strider, and Strider is pretty big. By being able to ignore combat penalties caused by terrain and movement speed, that's really good. I think the Spiders are solid units because of that, and you would prefer to fight in the forest, I guess, because, well, they don't have any combat penalties in there. Charge bonus of 60 as well, so that's pretty good. I like the Giant Spider just because of the Strider aspect of it. So I just really wish they gave him the Encourage aura when he was mounted. It's a shame that he doesn't. And then our leader, our MVP, the Goblin Great Shaman, using the spell Curse of the Bad Moon, something that I don't use too often, but it was very good in that situation. It also does drop the Nasty Curse, which I think is great. Minus 34 melee attack, minus 15 armor, and minus speed for 22 seconds, any unit hit by it. So I think the Curse of the Bad Moon, as far as Vortex spells go, is amazing, because it applies a debuff as well for 22 seconds. A lot of those other Vortex spells don't. So I think the Goblin Shaman for 900 in cost is pretty good. Also, to point out, he also loses the Encourage aura if he's mounted, which is why I did not put him on a Giant Wolf. I don't like that. I don't like that at all, but, you know, it's part of the game. I guess the bonus, though, is that he does grant Vanguard deployment on the Wolf. But I really needed him for the Encourage aura, because we as Gobbos have low leadership, So I needed as much leadership buff as I can. And here is the, where is it? Goracle Fix It. Use that a couple times on the enemy cav. I think the Shaman spells, I don't remember what this lore is called, but I think this is a pretty solid lore because they have a buff for a lot of allies. They have a debuff for a lot of enemies, melee enemies specifically. They have a debuff for cav. I think that's mostly what that's supposed to be against. They have a debuff for the archers and gunners as well. They have a magic missile if you want to go that route, and a giant vortex spell. I think all of these spells are useful in the right situation. And on top of that, they also have Stand Your Ground, which is an amazing ability. I love Stand Your Ground. It's great. It's amazing. So I think the Goblin Shaman for 900 cost is a super solid unit, as long as you can keep him safe. I guess that's the trade-off. He's super squishy. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that battle, everybody. We as Gobbos managed to eke out a win for the first time. I'm very excited about that. And we'll try out maybe some other variations in the future for Gobbos. We'll maybe try Goblin Wolf Chariots. I don't think these are really great, but I need to test them out some more, so we'll probably try that. And we need to try out the Goblin Rock Lava a little bit more in a situation where I am more focused on assigning them specific targets. But yeah, I love this Goblin theme. I think it's just super good because they have a lot of different Goblin units, and it's you have a wide variety in just using one of the races of the Greenskins, and it's, I don't know, it brings a smile to my face whenever I see just a whole army of those little dudes just running across the field. It's just great. But yeah, anyway, I hope you all have a good day. Take care.